Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Learning Torah Lishma. I'm going to talk about something a bit controversial, and that is parents need to realize what's happening to their kids. What do I mean? Parents think, what is he talking about? I send them to the cheder, I send them to the best, yeshivas, Not only do I send them to the best yeshivas when they're young, when they get older, I send them to the best yeshivas. Parents think I spend so much money sending my girls to the best schools, fighting to get them in. And then not only that, I send them to the best seminaries. I'm in debt. I gave my whole life that they should have Jewish education. You understand? And they can't imagine that there's anything wrong here because they put so much effort. It's so hard to get them in. Tuition is so hard. This is so hard. You understand? And people have no idea, even though I speak, and I say the truth, but people have no idea how much it hurts me. The parents that are being hurt, and the people themselves that are put through this, that are being hurt. It hurts me tremendously, and that's really what pushes me to just say the truth. You understand? To just say the truth. Someone has to scream fire. You see, I can't get over this clip that I saw, and I was surprised. Because usually YouTube doesn't allow such clips, but I saw it on YouTube. I think it was Fox News, whatever. You see a police officer just before we talk about the police officer, there's a woman in a train. So there's a train right there, a woman screaming. What she's screaming about? She's literally on fire. Someone lit her on fire. How they did that, I do not know. I'm guessing you have to throw gasoline on her, some type of flammable thing, and then you throw a candle, because otherwise the person will just take off the coat she was wearing. She was wearing something. So I'm guessing you would take it off if you see it caught on fire. So it must be that someone, one of the crazy people there, first threw something flammable on her and then threw a match. And she was lit. You could see in the video, she's on fire. She's burning alive and screaming. And I see this police officer just walk by. I don't know if it was a male or female. I don't know what it was. I couldn't tell that. Just walks by as if nothing's happening, as if this is normal, which to a certain extent it is normal. You understand? It's dangerous to go to use the trains. People, now when they go to trains, they stand against the wall because they're afraid of these crazy people, these homeless people that are encamping everywhere, and all these illegals. They'll just push you in. You understand? They'll just push you out. They think it's funny. Crazy what's happening. Absolutely crazy. So this is something that I saw. I think it was Fox News was showing it. How this police officer just walks by, doesn't even glance. There's this woman screaming. She's on fire. Literally, her entire body is on fire, and she's running, trying to get it out. You understand? And she's on fire. And this police officer just walks by like nothing's happening. I couldn't believe it, and it was on Fox News. So it wasn't like some random channel. It was Fox News showing this. This was happening in the New York, I don't remember, the New York or subway or Manhattan subway. I don't know, that area. That's where it was happening. Shocking, absolutely shocking. So, people I see people going through pain, and I'm like, I need to say something. I need to be moist nefesh. I need to risk my life. I need to. I mean, in Judaism, no one's going to kill you, understand? But you need to, they could put you in cherem. There's other types of things that could be done. But I need to risk it, because you need at least one person that on each issue is not holding back, is every issue is knocking it off and saying the truth. You have like an array of Balei Darshans, and some of them won't be truthful at all when it comes to the system. Some of them will be truthful in this area and that area, but all these other areas not. You understand? You need at least one person that will say the truth of the Torah, the truth of God Himself in every issue, and never hold back. So that's what I do. You understand? That's what I do. So here we go. Parents have no idea what's happening to their children in the system. And I'm not talking, when you say this statement in the, when you're talking about public school, you start thinking about kids being raped and things like that. That's not what I'm talking about. Those are very extreme, rare scenarios. We don't have those issues generally. This is a very rare scenario. Does it never happen? No. But is it very rare? Yes. When someone says there's issues when it comes to Orthodox Jewish schools, no one thinks of rapists. You understand? That's not what comes to mind. You're thinking of bad, they're not teaching them enough, bad chinuch, they're not giving them the tools to succeed in life. That's more what people think about. You understand? They're not passing their tests. That's what people are thinking about. You understand? And that's what I'm talking about. People don't realize what's happening to their kids in school. And we're not talking about, a once in a lifetime scenario. No, you understand the rare scenarios. We're talking about a regular school, regular scenario. People don't understand what's happening with their kids. Let me explain. And kids are not learning balance for life. And you say, oh, okay, but they're learning. Yes, they're learning, but learning is not enough. A school is supposed to be teaching the kids balance, how to be a balanced person. And they're not teaching that. What does that mean? The schools today, their whole derech halimud, the whole way of teaching, their whole ideology is to create kids that will learn for the rest of their life. When they're not married, they're going to learn, and when they get married, they're going to go to kollel. What I call the kollel ideology. This is what this is the atmosphere. This is what's being told. Every drasha that you hear is talking about kollel, 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 learning full time. But to teach someone about family, balance, if this is talked about, it's not nearly close to when they talk about learning and learning full-time in Kaila. So they do not prepare your child for life. Because in life, you need to work, you need to learn. You need to spend time with your spouse, you need to spend time with your kids. You need to respect your parents. Don't forget about them. You know, the parents, they marry off the kids. And each kid that gets married, they forget about their parents and they forget about their siblings that aren't married yet. They're married and they don't care that the system is hurting everybody when it comes to getting married. They don't care because they're married already. They succeeded. And they just forget about everybody that's being hurt. And all the different aspects in the system that people are being hurt, whether it's money and schools. Well, you got your son into school, you understand? You succeeded, you forget about everybody else that isn't succeeding. This is a tremendous problem. A tremendous problem. People have no idea how big of a problem this is. In short, you cannot trust, I would say, almost every boys' school and girls' school, whether it's, only when in the very young ages, But once, from 8 to 10 years old, you understand, you need to start creating, you have to get, you need to create your own schools that train people balanced. Now, a school doesn't mean that you have to make a building. If you have the money, then, kala kavod, but you could homeschooling and it's by someone's house and that person gets their children in for free or pays half, you understand? Or it's switched each day by a different one of the group and you get 10, 15, 20 kids that learn in a balanced way. They learn about life. They learn not just Torah, but common sense. And they learn, they learn balance the different areas of life that they're going to need to know. It's not, why do we always wait to the last moment, to after the last moment? You understand? The person's married already, and now you say, okay, you better learn about how to treat a wife. You better learn about how to treat a husband. Why can't you do that? Not when they get engaged, but years before. They should learn about how a woman thinks, how a man thinks, and how to pleasure them, how to treat them, how they want to be treated. Because a woman makes a mistake and thinks, the way I want to be treated, that's the way I treat the man. But the man doesn't want to be treated that way. And the man makes a mistake and thinks the way I want to be treated is the way she wants to be treated. But the woman doesn't want to be treated that way. So this is what's happening. This is what's happening. So people need to realize this. People need to realize. And there needs to be a good balance. And today people need to learn about how to type. If you don't know how to type, like most of the jobs you can't do. We're not talking about programming. That's also good, but simple, how to type. And it needs to be a must. Like if a child is having a hard time learning how to type, that's where the money goes to teach them. Not because of some weird, they're having this feeling and then you focus on that feeling for the rest of their life. No. Let the feeling pass. Make sure they know how to type. I remember when I was first, They were teaching how to type, and that wasn't all the schools, This is, typing is a necessity. It's something that if the person doesn't know how to do, it's going to affect them so much in life. And so it's not easy. It's so much easier to learn it when you're younger than when you get older. Learn how to type. The type is not AI. It's not browsing the web, and you don't need any internet. They need to know how to type. Typing is essential for today. It's a must. Every kid has to learn how to type, just like every child should be taught in school the trup and learn how to read the Torah with trup. Every child needs to know how to type. It's not an option. It's not like if a child's having a hard time learning, so we just let him, we just continue on and it's fine that he doesn't know how to lane, how he doesn't know how to type. No, it's a must. That's where we put the resources in to make sure he knows how to do that. You understand? So in easy, when you come to around 10 years old, and this is for boys and girls, that's around the age that after that, I always say from the beginning you should have, but it's difficult, you understand? So we try to pinpoint that moment of when the teachings that they start to teach start to become, when the child is already, the mind is working enough that now they could start brainwashing them, into the koil situation. It's around 10. If you get them out of 10, you're safe. You know what I'm saying? You wait a few years, it's a problem. The issue the brainwash has begun. You understand? If you're only hearing it now, then of course you take them out of it. But I'm just saying, if your children aren't there yet, you should know that 10, around 10, meaning not older than 10. 10 is when you take them out of the regular school system, and you need to make a private school with other parents. So it gives you some time. You understand? It's not like you have 10 years, you get to know different parents, and together you need to find a Talmud Chacham that could teach your kids, but that understands what we discuss over here. So you have time, you understand, you put it together, and because you can't trust the schools. Not because it's not, when we say you can't trust them, we're not talking about you can't trust them like the same way you can't trust public school. You understand? You send your kid to public school, right? Not just before Trump, right? You sent your kid to public school. He was a boy and he came back a girl, right? That's not what we're talking about. It's not what we're talking about. Your son came back in public school, and all of a sudden he's missing body parts. The woman, her gems are chopped off. We're not talking about that. It's this harmful ideology of koilo, which really begins around 10 years old. And if you take them, if you want to be extra safe, 8 years old, you understand? You take them and you make private. And you need Limudei Kodesh, you need Limudei Chayil, and you need to know it's not just the curriculum. You need to be smart and think what's important. You understand? What's crucial? They need to know how to lane. This is something that's so essential to a yid. When it comes to Limudei Chayil, they need to know how to type. It's a must today. It's a must. When you give a few clear examples, then, people they get a clear mind and they understand other things. But let's mention a few. Is knowing how to learn Be'in important for a boy? Absolutely. But that should be something that's done once every other week, once a month. But the focus, again, now we're talking about someone 10, so of course not when they're 10, this is when they're a bit older, but I'm just trying to give clear examples. So we start to, the best way to remove darkness is to bring light. So let's bring truths, and truth, brings to a person's mind other truth, and you're able to think it over and see if you're correct or mistaken, or if things need to be tweaked the way you're thinking about it. Hopefully you're married, you're with your spouse, you're not divorced, and you could talk it over with them. You understand? If not, a close rebbitzin you have, a rabbi, you understand? If you need to talk these matters over, you understand? Get clarity. But you need to realize what's important. To succeed, to be a holy person, to be a godly person, and to be successful in this world. Limudei Chayil. You understand? You're living on this world. You're going to be here for quite a while. You're not going to be here forever, but you're going to be here for a long time. You're going to have kids that you're going to need to feed. You need to know how to work in the business world, how to be successful. If you could become a billionaire, there's no reason that you should now say, no, I'm going to use that time and only become a millionaire. Why? If you could become a billionaire, become a billionaire. You understand? Now, if to become a billionaire, you can't learn at all, you this and that, and you're completely devoid of holiness in your life, then that's, of course, not the right thing to do. Now there could be like special situations when a person has an extreme energy, and if they don't do that, then they don't use it, then it will cause them to sin, to leave Yiddishkeit. There's always the exception to the rule, but we have to stop thinking about the exception. 95% of people, 99% of people. You understand? If in the same time you could make $1 million, and in that same time, or maybe a bit more time, you could become a billionaire, there's nothing wrong with becoming wealthier. You understand? And put that money to good use. And there's no reason to have your kid have to start from zero when it comes to business. He should understand how things work. You have to teach him the tax law basics. You understand? Schools don't teach this, but you have to think. If there's no reason that you shouldn't train him to think like an entrepreneur, to become an entrepreneur in the Limudei Chayil, and to become righteous and holy in the Limudei Kodesh. He needs to know halacha. He needs to know how to paskin. Bekias is the bread and butter of Yiddishkeit. He needs to finish Shas. A kid is young. He's like the universe that you could fit the whole universe inside of him. A child is endless, and things can be done in a happy way, in a joyful way. You understand? It doesn't have to be that the kid is sitting the whole time. He could stand, he could sit. Some people, some kids, they work better when they're standing. Some when they're sitting. Some you have to teach them interactively. Not everybody has to be a cookie cutter. There are things that, of course, you need to know, right? You have to know how to learn, You understand? You have to be able to read a Gemara. You have to know how to type, right? There's things that are must, and then there's many other things. And you see the kid, like, it doesn't have to be that he has to have everything. The point is making him balanced, successful, a healthy person. You need to put time into it. Think about it. Talk about it with the other parents. Make the curriculum. There's certain things that you need to do, whether it's important or not, you understand? But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about all the other things, the really important things, you understand? You need to think about that. And certain kids, you might see, oh, that kid's going to be a good doctor. That kid's going to be a good accountant. That kid's going to be a good writer, a good singer, this and that. You have to see the tchunas hanefesh, the koichas hanefesh, the power that they have inside of them. Where's their power? And start training them in that area from young. Not that when they're 20 or 25 or 30, that now they have to start from like zero. You need to be wise enough. And if you're not wise, take them to a wise person and learn their powers of their soul, the powers of spirituality, of existing in this world, and start to train them in it. Make them successful. Just going to go on a bit of a tangent, but today, it's starting to, fade a bit, That's why the Harvard is like, if the parents make less than $200,000, then there's no tuition. They don't want to lose the young folk because they're busy brainwashing them. But whenever there's free things being given out, unless it's a holy person, it's not for a good reason, But getting back, one needs to know that your kids, there's so much that you could do. There's so much that you could do. People are just thinking higher education and, there could be a kid that his greatest happiness in life is not going to law school and becoming a lawyer, but being on sea, being on the boats, pulling the ropes. You understand? There's a lot of calculations that go into that. It's not like a simple, it's not a simple thing. Maybe to him, that's, or he videos traveling on a boat to different places, and maybe to him, just because to you a lawyer is considered successful, it's nonsense. Maybe him working on a ship, or building his own ship and visiting different places out with his ship, that for him that's success. He doesn't care about billions and millions. He cares about, he has a good, good money comes in, but he doesn't need the billions, you understand? He's happy without it. If something comes his way and he can make $1 billion, why not? You understand? There's no reason to push it away. But, he's making 100,000, 200, 300,000 a year. That's good. You understand? He can live happily, put in his retirement. After 37 years, if he puts 500, into a Roth IRA, per month, he'll have like $2.5 million, and he can live off the dividends and the appreciation. Not everything. There are some people that they want to make a lot of money. There are other people that their happiness in life is doing other things. You understand? Holy people, their happiness in life is learning the Word of God. And they're like, let's, they try to take as much time as they can to learn, but at the same time, they don't not take care of their family, absolutely, but, the wife and him are together on this, and, she's working to become a rebbitzin, he's working to become, a rabbi. It doesn't mean you have to be a rabbi of a synagogue, but to be that to be that stature, you understand? Because holiness is important to them. That holiness is extremely important. But whatever you do, your focus is to God. You're rowing on the boat. You're seeing the neflai sabari, the beauty of God's world. There's ways to do the different. You're someone that has this big drive to become a billionaire. You could that money could be used to literally change, to make sure every child until the age of 18 has a school to go to, a frum Jewish school that teaches balance, teaches all the different areas of life, gives balance. Look at the power that could do. Each person and where they are. And if we just do the right thing, it's going to be difficult in the beginning. But if we just do the right thing, but it's not going to be earth-shattering, you understand? We just do the right thing. Then we don't have to sit and go into we don't have to, we could be focusing more on the right thing. We don't have to keep showing psychologically and physically and all the different ways of showing how not doing balance and saying kollel is so dangerous. It's so detrimental. Maybe I'll stop here. And with the homeschooling, you also save a lot of money. So much money is saved. Ay, chaval. So much, all the money that you lose not doing it, you understand? So much money is saved. And your kids come home earlier and you could spend more time with them. And they're so much more happier with their life. It's a different world. A different world. And now you're not supporting them forever. You're supporting them until they get married, which today you never know. They could be 27 or 30 and get married then, and you had to pay for school, for yeshiva all the way until then. And then after they get married, now you're helping them with their bills and this and that, and now once they turn 18, they become self-sufficient. Even before around 14, 15, they become self-sufficient. They start buying their own clothing, their own stuff, not because you don't want to give to them, but because they became self-sufficient. You brought them up in a balanced way, and they became mature at a young age. And now they're able to, buy their own shoes, buy their own things, save money, and become a real man, become a real woman. You understand? Isn't this the life you want? Just because someone's making money doesn't mean that now he can't be Jewish anymore. This is the way people think. I don't understand it. When you destroy someone's life, if he works, you lock away the women, you lock away, you never taught him how to be balanced, so he has no idea. When he starts to work, it takes years until he figures out how to make money and this and that. That's what causes someone to go off the derech. But making money causes someone to go off the derech. It doesn't cause someone to go off the derech. When he can't get a wife for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years, when he's afraid he might be single because all the girls are brainwashed into kollel, that's an issue. Now, we're not talking about like super righteous, holy type of girls, you understand? That they're going to live with that tzaddik, that's He's gonna minimize. Both of them are gonna, she's gonna work, he's gonna work, but they're gonna live. They're gonna live. They're gonna try to live on try to maximize the learning, so they're gonna live on much less than other people live on. We're not talking about that girl. We're talking about regular girls. You understand? Which is most of them. Balanced person is who they need and who they'll be happy with and who they won't get divorced from. But when you teach them that they need the color person, and now when they made the color person, that's not really good for them. When you teach them, really what I said before isn't the color, but I'm saying the correct type of color, which is like the Satmar Rebbe, half a day you work, half a day you learn, you understand? So when you make all the girls think that, the koilo, when it's really not for them, that causes divorce and unhappiness in life, absolutely. But even if they do marry someone that is balanced, because they were the whole, they were brainwashed into koilo, they don't appreciate their husband. And that could lead to divorce as well. So, Ezehu Chacham Amakras Makami. Who is the wise person? Someone that realizes their place. And you as a leader need to realize people's place and not push people into things that are not meant for them. You're not the Rajbi. Stop pushing people there. You're not even taking care of them. You're telling them they have to wait 3 years to start getting a koilo check. 5 years in order to get married. Otherwise, no one comes to the wedding, to the chasana. Again, these are two schools that do this, BMG and some place in Eretz Yisrael. I remember Nachlas Yaakov, something, I remember, some Sephardi place. Understand? This is... it's so important. It's so important. And to do the right thing. And at the same time, you're going to have all these naysayers and all these people that, are the koil people, the full-time koil people, and they're going to come and after you, and this rabbi's going to come and that, and the... it says, don't help a fool. What is it? It's the lashon of the Gemara over there, of the Talmud. The Gemara tells us, don't help a fool. These people are fools. When you help a fool, he just hates you, right? Don't help. Shlomo Melech says it, as well. Don't help a fool. This is what they think. They try to come attack you. You can say, listen, you are not the whole Yiddishkeit. There are different ways. You understand? No one here is not keeping Shabbos. No one here is not keeping Kashrus. We're not teaching people that it's okay not to keep Shabbos. It's okay not to keep kosher. They're being taught proper Jewish law and hashkafa. So it doesn't match. You want to be teaching full-time learning? We don't have to. There's nowhere in the Torah that it says that. You want to teach your people that? That's your decision. You understand? We don't have to do that. There's no obligation to do that. If you cannot respect us, then we won't respect you. You understand? That's it. You have to be firm and just not allow them to fight with you, to attack you. And you as a community have to be strong, because they'll try to prevent you from the schools and prevent you from getting married and from jobs and this and that. And you have to be strong together. And it's not comfortable being in that position, because they're not. These people won't relent. They're living off Democrat money. You understand, and they get their tendencies. You understand. You need to become self-sufficient. Work. It might be the first generation, or maybe the first and second generation. You won't be able to have people that learn half a day and work half a day, or work half a day, learn half a day. You understand? Because of the attacks. You need to be producing money for your kids to have Jewish educations, and that you should be successful, and that you could marry each other's kids. You understand? To take off. You understand? Because you're going to be attacked. You're going to be blocked. They're not, you think, I was listening to this mafia guy that he was complaining. It was on Jubilee, one of these mafia guys, and then afterwards he spoke, and he was saying how the cops should be fair and this and that. Welcome to living on earth. You understand? You think, well, things should be fair, and if it was fair, then I only would have to do this. Things aren't fair. Things aren't perfect. In fact, they're far from perfect. And if you think it's not going to be a fight to change, you're wrong. However, you don't have to fight back. Because you're making money, you could take care of your kids, you could hire your own tutors to get, and the kids could come together and learn and be successful. And they could just fall in the backside because you're self-sufficient. You're like, Elon Musk, right? What's the big issue? He needs to make Mars self-sufficient. Because if you're not self-sufficient, then if something happens to the rocket, then everybody dies. You understand? Because it's going to take another 6 months until you could send the next one. You understand? So, you need to focus on being self-sufficient. And then there's nothing they could do. There's nothing they could do. They're gonna put you in cherem because you're teaching balance. I'm saying they can't do that. And if they do it, it doesn't work. You understand? And it's also important, if you could get a big Talmid Chacham who understands what balance is. He understands the truth of balance and not this extremism of kollel. You understand? That's also important. But sometimes when you start, it's something that you find later on. First you have to get the group together, and then you find it later. But money is what's going to give you the power to be self-sufficient. Be able to get a good Rebbe for the kids, a good person that's in English class, that's a Yirei Shemayim. You understand? And you'll be able to put it together. But if you're trying to do this while sticking to the falsehood, then it's not going to work. And probably, the first generation, but possibly also the second, you understand, no one there will be able to be half a day, learning, half a day working, vice versa, whichever way you do it. You probably will need to be working a full day, a 9 to 5, and putting learning in before, putting learning in after, and that's probably what you will need to do, because you'll be blocked out, you'll be attacked, all these things. So this is just reality, and it could be done. Especially, you're living in a first world country, especially America. This could be done. You understand? It could be done. Now, I understand that people living in Eretz Yisrael, they're from all the places in the world. That's a whole different situation. You understand? Because there they have a forced draft, not just of men, but and women as well. And there it's a whole different situation. I have to make a share about that. what does one do? You understand? What does one do? It's not simple. In general, I hold that until Mashiach comes, if they have this law, you can't live there. You have to get rid of your Israeli citizenship. You have to do everything to get rid of your Israeli citizenship. Get an American citizenship, get an England citizenship, get a Canada citizenship, get a country that has democracy, get their citizenship. A Swiss citizenship. Once you have a citizenship to a different country, then you're able to just be mevatel, to nullify your Israeli passport. You understand? And that's what you need to do. It's not even a question. You can't have an Israeli passport. Could you live in Eretz Yisrael? Yeah, you could live in Eretz Yisrael without an Israeli passport. It's not so easy. There's going to be difficulties. The simple way is just not to live there and to visit there. But if you need to live there, it's going to be a bit more complicated. But you can't live there with an Israeli passport. You can't allow your kids to get, when your kids give birth, you have to you say, I don't want an Israeli passport, and you get them, a different country's passport. You understand? Or what you could do is, different situations, they could get the Israeli passport, but then you get them a different country's passport when they, around 15 years old, and then you nullify the Israeli passport, right? That's another option. You understand? So, but being with an Israeli passport and having that possibility of they just break into people's houses and pull their kids away, not just men but women as well. So that you can't, that cannot